Hey, good morning. Good morning. Coffee Conversation Special Edition is on. How are you today? How are you? How are you? Yeah, I know we come on Tuesdays and Thursdays with compelling and culturally relevant conversation. But today we got some important, exceedingly important information to share with you. And so we decided we do a special edition and talk about it, have a conversation, see if we can help y'all out in this COVID-19 environment. I know we're slowly but surely opening up, but we're picking up the pieces. It's been a crazy, crazy year, huh? Thank you for joining us yesterday. What a great conversation we had with people from the Arts Council for Long Beach, who were talking about public art all around the city of Long Beach. And wow, that was a great conversation. Thank you so much. Today, right, so the pandemic's got a lot of people in the hurt. You know, we've been pivoting is the key word you've been hearing quite a bit about. You know, we've been trying to, keep it going. People losing their jobs, people working from home. A lot of circumstances have been changed, right, because of the pandemic. If you're a renter, you're struggling out here. If you have had some adverse effects from the pandemic on your income, a lot of people out there renting and it's a hard road to go, right? Hard road to go. I hope y'all are all right in this time. I mean, that was just a thought that popped into my head. I really do hope you're all right, stressing if you're in that type of situation. But the state of California, help is on the way, they say. That's what they say. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the housing crisis. Lots of homelessness out there. It's a crazy time, right? But of course, I always bring specialists and important people who know what the heck they're talking about. I'm just the observer of the community, all over the globe. And just blessed to have friends in high places, relationships where people know what the heck they're talking about. And I just invite them here to have coffee with me and let's just kind of chat about it. One of those friends is, the fabulous, the honorable, the upstanding, one of the smartest people I know in this whole entire world. That's what I say. She's the executive director of LISC LA. Please welcome Tunua Thrash-Ntuk. Good morning.
Hey there, Greg. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that introduction and thanks for having me on today.
Yes. Thanks for joining me. This is a subject matter that I got to go to the All-Stars, and I know that the Hall of Fame to know in this housing thing. Before we bring our other guest on, just first of all, two questions. Number one, what does LISC LISC stand for? And what are you seeing in the housing area? People are out of work. People are really, really struggling. What's your sense right now?
Well, Greg, so the Local Initiative Support Corporation is what LISC stands for. And while we're national as an organization, as you've told your viewers and listeners, I'm executive director for the Los Angeles office. And a big part of what we do, I like to talk about it as the 2 C's. We bring capital where we can to communities that really need it most. And then we bring capacity. So the opportunity for communities to self-determine what it is that they want to see in their community, but may need, little guidance and support in getting there. Some best practices, for example, what's happening in other places, what's possible. So that's that other C. And so that's, what LISC is. People can certainly visit our website at www.lisc.org/Los Angeles. So you can get to our office here in Los Angeles. And then your next question, Greg, was really about, what are we seeing and hearing in the housing market right now? And, it's a serious matter. What we're seeing is that so many families have been impacted by COVID, either with loss of income, loss of job, but we've also seen an increase in costs for a lot of families. So maybe their utility bills went up, or maybe they've had to pay for additional care so that people can work outside the home because their schools have been closed. And those kinds of things have had a pretty devastating impact on people's budget and their income and being able to pay rent. So right now, what we're seeing is that there are a number of vulnerable households in our state. And I hope that, we'll be bringing on my colleague to talk with us as well about what are some of the solutions. What can we be doing to try and help families right now?
Oh, that's awesome. Let's bring him on right now, all the way. I think he's up there in the state capitol there. State of California officials, y'all, are coming here. Let's see, Mr. Geoffrey Ross. Let me get my cursor over to bring you in. Hold on. Oh, technology is something. What's going on? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Greg, you want me to say a few words about Geoffrey as you bring him on?
Yes, go right ahead.
So Geoffrey Ross is the Deputy Director for the Division of the Federal Financial Assistance at the State of California's Housing and Community Development Department. He's responsible for the deployment and engagement of federal housing and community development resources here in our state. That includes disaster recovery and coronavirus relief funds. He's had an illustrious career, including helping with initiating and oversight of the Home Key initiative that's been successful here in our state. And LISC is proud to partner with the state. And Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Oh, man. Look, see, you guys, that's what I'm saying. You just go to the source and we can figure it all out and get some solutions out here to help our community. Jeff, what are you seeing in the housing situation? What's your sense up there? You're in Sacramento, correct?
I am.
Okay, all right. So what are you seeing like from the state's capital, the big overarching view?
Yeah, no, I think Tunua was saying it correctly in terms of there's just a lot of households and families out there that have really been struggling, loss of income, loss of jobs. The increased cost is a real thing as well, as Tunua was saying, that this has been a hard year plus now, right, for a lot of families, having to just deal with a lot of unknowns, a lot of different impacts, both directly and indirectly, to what they've been trying to do about going about their daily lives. And so, one of the things that we've been really trying to make sure that we can understand is how is it impacting different groups, different populations in different parts of the state, and how do we create a response that reflects the uniqueness of every household, every individual, and every locality, and do it in a way that is responsible, treats people with dignity, and really ultimately brings people some real assistance that closes out and hopefully solves or resolves a lot of the issues that they've had in the last year, which primarily is around accruing debt and trying to stay housed while they're trying to feed their family, pay for medications, care for loved ones at a socially distant way. So we've been seeing the same things as you all have, really hoping that folks are doing okay, knowing that they're struggling, and now trying to really come up with a way to work with everyone and help solve it.
This is good stuff. Good stuff. Now, Tunua, what are some of the ways that people can, is there help? There's a lot going on out here. We're losing our jobs. Technology is changing. We're to the point where, can we even get our jobs back? If people are on that EDD, they're not getting the help. What are some of the solutions of relief that we can look to?
So, and I've been on the show before, Greg, and we kind of talked about relief as it was coming out, right? So last year, there was relief in the form of the PPP loan. And so I had a chance to talk with your viewers about that. And that was really supporting small businesses, making sure that they could maintain their payrolls and pay their rent and pay their utilities. We also saw that there was help that came in the form of unemployment for those who had lost income. And needed to be able, they couldn't go to work. We asked everybody to stay home. And so we had those unemployment benefits. Those were even extended to those who were in more casual working situations. So more like the gig economy. For the first time ever, the resources were available to those communities. And Greg, over the course of last year as well, there was support directly in the form of grants to small businesses and to small entrepreneurs, again, to try and help make sure that we could keep people whole as much as possible during this time. And right now, as of March 15th, and Jeff can talk as well about some of the things that the legislature has done to try and really address the rent crisis, the rent burden, the back due rent that both landlords and tenants have. And so right now, the state of California has received more than $2.6 billion that it, along with several jurisdictions, are looking to distribute to households that are eligible based on their income level and the COVID-19 impact has had on their households. So there is help. And Jeff and I are going to say over and over again, we're going to encourage people to go to housingiskey.com. That's the state's website that really helps people navigate what they might be eligible for.
All right, housingiskey.com. I'm about to put that in the chat for somebody who needs help. They're not going to wait till the end of the show. They're like, I'm in it right now. Jeff, talk about that for a minute now. So the state, I mean, it's great. This is great stuff. And I'm really glad to see, government entities moving in this right direction. It really is a blessing to have the state, care this much to try to keep the state stable, keep the people stable, and get our recovery right on track. What are some of the key points to when I go on to housingiskey.com? What do I need to have? How do I get the help? Can you walk us through it?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the key things that you're going to want to do when you go to housingiskey.com is you're going to want to, if you're a landlord, you're going to want to click on the landlord link. If you're a tenant, you're going to want to go on the tenant. And really what we're trying to do is make sure that we partner up and work together. When we started down this path, the legislature and the governor, when they authorized Senate Bill 91, which allowed us to create the program now that's providing the rental assistance, the California Rental Relief Program. What they were looking at is this initial $2.6 billion, but none of us really knows how deep the hole the state is in terms of our households, how much rent has accrued, and what folks really need to become current again. So we really wanted to look at it as a partnership between the state, local governments, tenants, and landlords, and really trying to make sure that we bring everyone along in the process. And so we've worked and what folks will see immediately is we've tried to create a no wrong door into the program. So meaning you come into Housing is Key, you're either going to come into the state's program or you're going to come into a local program that's operating on behalf of the state, or you're going to go into a local program that is focusing very specifically on certain populations. But again, you're going to be covered by one of those. So there is no wrong door. The rental assistance program is available statewide. And so we've worked really hard to try and make sure that we can create that system and that structure. And again, we're trying to do it in partnership with the landlord and the tenant. Now, a lot of folks know over the last year, we've had tenant protections in place for the very reasons that we kind of kicked off the show. People have lost income, they've lost jobs, been trying to pay rents, but not been able to stay current. And so we learned a while back, I think a lot of folks will remember back to the Great Recession. And when we don't have things in place to help folks and to protect folks, we end up seeing a lot of folks lose their housing. And housing becomes unstable, And it's really difficult not only for the individuals and the households, but it is a really negative impact to the community. And that's what, has been a very key component and focus by the legislature and the governor in the last year. And so those rental and protections are in place through June of this summer. And so the design of the program has been with that in mind is, we know landlords haven't had a program that offers them assistance. And fortunately, this is the program that does that. But we want to do that in concert by making sure that we help vulnerable households as well. So this isn't stimulus where a check just goes to the landlord. This is a program that is designed that we work with and pay funds to the landlord that is owed to the landlord, but making sure that we bring tenants whole and current. And right now, one of the designs that we wanted to make sure that was in place, because again, we didn't know the extent of the need. We knew about $2.6 billion. So we wanted to make sure that we could make a very meaningful investment in land with landlords and making sure we bring folks current. But we also needed to ask landlords to participate and forgive a little bit of the debt. So what that means is that right now, if a landlord and tenant apply and are eligible and are coming through our program, we will pay 80% of what is owed. There is no cap on that amount. So we know in high cost areas, especially like Los Angeles and other parts of the state, rents are high and people have accrued a lot of debt. So what we're trying to make sure is that we can pay 80% of that. What we would like is for landlords to then forgive 20%, and that brings a household current. And then we also have the ability where folks, they might not have that many arrears. So those are, rent owed payments, but they might need some help going forward. So we also have the ability to pay some prospective rents, to pay a little bit forward if someone knows that they're going to be coming short. Now, those perspectives are in line with the rental protections. Right now, the way the rental protections work is that if a household is paying 25% of what the rent they owe, then they are covered. What that means is it cannot be evicted for not paying rent if they pay 25% of their rent. And so we have the prospective rent capabilities built into the program. And the exciting thing is, we have been now up and running for just about 2 months. And we launched on March 15th. We've had about 175,000 households come through the program. The state program specifically, we've had tens of thousands of other households come through some of our partners that are administering the state program locally. And so we're starting to get real good information where we didn't have it before as to what the level of need is. And we also got word that with the American Rescue Plan, we're getting additional rental assistance funding. And so we're very excited that the state of California is going to have roughly $4.8 billion available to assist needy households and landlords. And so we're actively out there trying to make sure that we can bring in families that need assistance to help landlords that we know have been struggling over the last year. But we're also trying to learn as we're doing this process, making sure that we're constantly evaluating the program. And we're trying to make sure that we also feed that information to the legislature and the governor so that way they too know what we're seeing and they can make any adjustments or decisions that is appropriate.
All right, Jeff, let me ask you a question. This is really great stuff. So 80% of the arrears, and you're asking the landlord to forgive the remaining 20%. What about, have you seen many cases where the landlord is like, no, I want all my money?
Right. No, and certainly I think we all know that we want all of our money if we can get it. And so it's important for us to recognize what we're asking for is, in many cases, not in all cases, I don't want to say that it's in all cases, but in many cases, folks have been paying some portion of rent. And what we're saying is we'll pay 80% of what hasn't been paid. So 80% of zero is 80%. So that would be a 20% asking of forgiveness. But if folks have been paying 25%, that really means overall the landlord gets 85% of the rent that was due. If a household had been paying 50%, it means 90% of what the landlord would have expected to have gotten paid will get paid. We also know that landlords, when you're responsible for a property, you've got to bring tenants in and stuff. There's turnover, and when you have turnover in units, that costs money. That's expensive. You don't get a payment from a tenant when there's no tenant in the unit, and you're having to do investments in the unit. So, generally speaking, we know for a lot of landlords, they anticipate some turnover in their units, and so once you have that turnover and those costs, while they could receive, if they were 100% occupied over the year, 100% of what's potentially able to be made on the unit, really they budget around 90%, 90 to 92, 93%. Mm-hmm. So that's where the rental assistance program is trying to target, knowing that households are trying to make payments, that we're trying to make 80%. So we're trying to get to that budgeting amount. And so that way, that allows us to help more households and to help more landlords. So our goal is, hopefully, folks are getting what they budgeted. And that's where we're trying to make sure that we're making folks whole.
All right, Tunua. So looking forward here. Okay, I've gone through the pandemic. I've gone through the rental relief situation, but the lesson learned is doggone it, I'm tired of paying rent. I want to own some property. I just own my stuff. What is forward looking? How can people who have gone through this struggle find relief or find that path to home ownership?
Well, Greg,
that's the relief right there. It's like, okay, let me just own my stuff.
Yes, and Greg, you and I have both worked on and really have focused in part my career, I know your career and the work that you've done as well on tackling even the racial ownership gap that we have. And for a lot of our households right now, we recognize as the state, I know Jeff and other leaders at the state recognize that some of those hard hit households are not only are they the low income rental households that the legislation is looking to focus on, but many of them are households of color. So, Black families, Black breadwinners who are in employment opportunities that have been most negatively impacted by the COVID crisis, Latinx households who also are in the kinds of industries that have been very hard hit, be it hospitality, some of your maybe janitorial services, areas where you had a number of frontline workers who could be hard hit not only by loss of income, but potentially also they being having had COVID in their communities, and that having an impact on your ability to go to work and to be able to engage and to be a frontline worker in this circumstance. Greg, you kind of allude to homeownership being a panacea in some sense, a way to guard against that. Part of what I do want to underscore for today and hope that we get into is that there are people who we know right now need the help, need this kind of program, and we're encouraging both the landlord and the tenants to apply to this program. Both parties must apply in order to get that maximum benefit. So right now, you're not going to be able to, have the credit score that's going to be needed in order to buy a home. If you've got, a judgment in debt, if you are owing a landlord in some way. And so this program can help offset that. And a big part of what we've been doing is really focusing in on a ground game, letting the community know through trusted partners in community that this program is available. And that's a big part of LISC's role in this program, is really identifying local organizations who are in community, who speak the language of that community in a variety of ways and have the patience and the sensitivity to be able to walk tenants as well as landlords through a digital only access application. So that's something that, we definitely want to make sure that the community knows that there's help out there, even just to complete the application. There are organizations out there that can help you with that. And as far as home ownership, Greg, I'm glad you brought it up. We've got Geoffrey on the line. He has a direct connection to the extent that I have a direct connection to state legislators. I think we do need to be talking about how do we stabilize communities? How do we use some of this these relief funds, America's Rescue Package, to really think about anchoring people in place in community by giving them a pathway towards home ownership? Can we restart soft second programs that many cities have had? The state has a number of financing products to help first-time home buyers get into housing. But sometimes we know that given income and the cost of housing in California, there's still a bit of a gap. So can resources be used at the state level that we're getting from the federal government to help close that gap for working families, folks who are out there every day, we know on the front lines, that we're grateful for them doing. But, frankly, that income and the cost of housing in California still doesn't quite match up. And so to the extent that we can identify some of those, what we call soft seconds, which are loans that working families can qualify for and pay back, after they've paid back that first mortgage, after they've paid back sort of that larger initial mortgage. Then as they free up some of that income, they can get to that second mortgage that's been a lot more patient because these are Californians that we want to be able to get in stable housing. So that's something that we'll continue to talk about. And Greg, maybe on another show, we can talk about how, we've got to produce more housing so that people can have something to buy. We've got to look at some of our zoning policies in such a way that allows for more construction and building in areas so that people can have something to buy, as well as, what are some of the best practices around helping working families access the kind of mortgage that they can get to be able to have home ownership. For today, it is all about helping people get connected to this rent relief.
Absolutely. It's so interesting you say that. I mean, I see a lot of construction going up where they're selling, units in various areas around, Southern California, but the price of those units are very, very high. And then even on the rent side, I mean, the rents are really, really crazy high in the state. And I'm sure that people, in order to survive, are rooming together, and they're trying to, just make it work, coming together. And if the person, subleases or is a roommate or something to that effect, I mean, hey, we all got to survive out here. Is there rental relief for sublessors? What do you think, Jeff?
So if you have a couple of different households living together, what we're focused on is we know at least. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right.
Yes.
All right. We know that folks have, formal leases, informal leases. What we're really trying to do is make sure that we account for the folks living in a unit and that the assistance is going on behalf of the person on the lease to the landlord to keep people stably housed. And so that's kind of the critical path. We know subleases exist, but that is a challenge for us. So I just want to be very, very honest, is that, if we pay a sublease, we have no guarantee the sublease is going to keep that subleasee in the unit, in the house, right? Because that is an agreement between one renter to another renter and not between that subleasee and the landlord. And so what you heard us mentioning earlier as we were talking about the design of the program, this is about the tenant and the landlord coming through together and working together to wipe out all that previously owed debt and bring in household current. And so we can do that with folks that are actually on the lease, whether that lease is formal or informal. By informal, we know some folks just do this on a piece of paper and write it down. And there's different ways that the application is very dynamic, and we ask for lots of different ways to make sure that we can capture and assist folks in their particular situation. So I think it's really, really important for me to say in this moment, as Tunua mentioned, we have assistance to help with the application because we've tried to make the application as low barrier as possible, accounting for different household situations. But that low barrier still has some requirements. And so those requirements take a little bit of time to go through. It is an application. And we know that some folks are going to struggle with that application. So what we've tried to make sure that we have available is assistance to help people in filling out that application, getting into the program, and then we continue. If we have some questions, we have case managers. We'll reach out. We'll make sure that we work with the household, with the landlord, get things rectified in terms of what our understanding is, and get assistance out to people. This is really to make sure that we help those that are truly vulnerable. And we know that not everyone is in the same situation. So we've tried to create flexibility while also making sure that we're responsibly taking care of taxpayer money. And that's the balance.
Yeah, that's critical. Now, okay, so you have caseworkers that can help folks that may struggle with filling out the application and getting the proper documentation in. And are those resources located all on Housing is Key, or are there other community organizations who may provide the service of assisting with the application, process?
Right. So thank you for asking that. And that's why we've tried to create the no wrong door. So if someone does go to Housing is Key, we have our hotline is available right there. Folks, feel more comfortable talking over the phone. We are in the process of also setting up. It's about to fully go live. A text it app, where folks can text and get assistance through the phone that way. We also have, and this is why Tunua and LISC are so critically important, is that we have organizations around the state. Again, those trusted partners in the community that can either schedule appointments, and even in a COVID environment, folks can go to an office and get help. Folks can come to someone's place of residence and assist them remotely that way. We've tried to account for lots of different ways to do this. And while I am super excited that, the California state government is here to help and assist, as you kind of said with my introduction, I also realize, as does a lot of folks that I work with, not everyone feels or trusts that we're really here to help you. And so we know that we need to overcome that trust factor. We need folks to know that we're serious and that we do care and that we want to assist both tenants and landlords. And so that's part of the reason we've worked so hard to make sure we bring in those trusted organizations that LISC is helping to organize and to mobilize, because we're serious. We want folks to get this assistance. We want folks to be able to stay stably housed. And we need to do that in a way that meets households where they're at, accounts for the fact that not everyone is comfortable on a computer. But we know that for us in this environment, and given what we need to do and how quickly we need to do it, it needs to be in a digital format. So we're trying to make sure that we bridge that divide.
All right. So, how do we text? Let's share that. What's the text information when it goes live?
So the good news, Jeff, is that it's live. So you heard it here on Beach City Radio. You can go to the website, which we've done, housingiskey.com.
Yeah.
We've got two 833 phone numbers. One is for case management. The other is to make an appointment to get connected to a local organization in your community. And you can text RENT to 211-211. We tried to make it as easy as possible, right? You text RENT. And when you do that, the system will automatically ask you a few questions so that we can figure out where are you located in California. And once we know that, then we'll know, okay, here are the local programs or the state program that you qualify for that you should go and apply to get help with your rent. So that it's live. And we're asking and encouraging your viewers to do that. It's live in several languages. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you've got any questions. Reach out to us at the state and at LISC to let us know if you've got any questions about that. But right now, you text rent there, and it'll start to populate immediately, saying, "Where are you? How can we help you?" So we think that that's another great resource.
Right. So that's all in the chat right now. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say that's another important point. Tunua and I meet pretty regularly throughout the week, and you just heard live on radio. She was giving me an update about my program. That's how quick this program's evolving. And so, if something's not there today, it might be there tomorrow. It could be there this afternoon. So I just want folks to understand we're evolving as we go. We launched quickly because of the urgency of the situation. We are adding capabilities every day. And so, again, that is us trying to make sure that we leave no stone unturned and that we minimize every barrier possible to households, because we know what we were doing before isn't necessarily what we need to be doing now and into the future. So we're trying to continue to improve and make sure that we can help folks.
Yeah, I really appreciate this information, and thank you for breaking news on on Coffee Conversations with Greg J. There it is. It's live happening. Text rent to 211-211. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, what about our seniors, right? And one thing that we learned throughout the census process, even the whole vaccination process, our seniors, some will be struggling with the whole texting, computer, online piece. How do we help our seniors or get them access to this program?
So, Greg, that's a great question. And, we have LISC is national in scope. And so there are other offices that are working on rent relief in other states. And the state of California is way ahead of and committed to the most vulnerable Californians. And that makes me really, really proud. As a result of that, we're thinking about seniors, right? Mm-hmm. So this program, you do have to apply online, and you must have an email address in order to apply. But we don't want that to be a barrier. So we've got organizations that are part of the network that are specializing in working with seniors. And how are they doing that? Well, a senior can at least make a call. We're finding that they can make a call and say, "Hey, I need help." And so it could be that the way that they're getting help is that we're assisting them on the phone or via Zoom in terms of setting up their application and helping them walk through that application. So that's happening. We have local organizations that are helping people set up an email account, even if it's just for this program. But in addition to having their own email account, the state has set it up so that some of our local partner organizations, they're able to, if the applicant agrees, to be added as an additional user. So organizations in the community who are trusted partners, maybe the senior gets their meals from this organization, maybe they get utility assistance from this organization and trust that organization. A staff member there could add their email address to the application, so that way they're contacted as well if something happens and the senior's not able to get to that application, if there's a question from a case manager, for example. So that's happening. Jeff mentioned that there is, in some of our markets, an opportunity for organizations to do what we call doorstep appointments. We're still in COVID, and we know for a lot of seniors who are very vulnerable, even if they are mobile, and in some cases we know they're not, they still need assistance at the doorstep and are vulnerable in terms of being exposed. And so a doorstep appointment in community allows someone to stay and remain in their home, someone to be scheduled at an appointed time at their doorstep with an iPad to help them get that information filled in, snap a photo of whatever documentation needs to be in that application. And you've got a complete application, at the doorstep. Those, of course, take time and a lot of resources. But the good news is that the state has set aside resources for that. So LISC is actually actively looking for organizations who want to be part of our local partner network. And you can get paid and get a contract. These are federal dollars. So you have to be an incorporated nonprofit organization in good standing with the state of California, in good standing with the federal government. But you have the opportunity to be able to get this contract, bring on the staffing, expand your staffing, train your current staff to be able to help with this kind of work. And so we're actively recruiting right now and encouraging organizations and community, hey, let's get connected. Tell us, where can you serve in the state? What population can you focus on? Can you help us reach throughout the entire state? And California is huge. Jeff often talks about the fact that among the other states, California's got one of the biggest programs in the country. So we've got a lot of ground to cover and a lot of households to cover here in our state.
Interesting, very, very interesting. I'm just overwhelmed with, I just think this is great. This is really great. I mean, it really sounds like you're going, to the wall for the people of the state, and it's admirable. And as I think about all the stuff that's going on in the state politically, I'm like, man, but the folks are working hard to help us get through these crazy times that we're in. We've posted all of the information except the phone number, and so if you can give me one of those phone numbers, then we can put that in our chat as well, and then we can find out what exactly. We'll give them all the ways that they can intersect with this program. What's the phone number?
So the call center is 833-430-2122, and it's open daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then we also have for the local partner network, so we have two different numbers to be able to call. We have 833-687-0967.
833, say it one more time.
687-0967.
All right, those are the call centers. It's the way to connect with the rental relief program. Jeff, you're doing a great job, man. All right, I love it. Now, let me ask you this personally, Jeff. How do you feel when you're doing this work? Like when you get home at the end of the day, or well, you're working from home, but at the end of the day, when you're like, take your shoes off, and how do you feel?
Honestly, for me, it's about knowing that I'm helping folks in my community, and I look at the entire state as my community. I've had the pleasure of living up and down the state, and really, we talk about it all the time at work. It's about helping all Californians. And we love where we live. We know we have our challenges, but we are an amazing place. I've had the fortune of going other places and seeing other communities, and they're all wonderful in their own way. But there's no place I'd rather be than California. And so, it is something that excites me. It on days that it's hard and you're tired and you're drained, knowing that this is the work that is going to help others, is something that really I do take home with me. And I have small children, well, not so small anymore, teenagers. But, I think about them, and I think about, the next generation coming behind us. And I really do believe that we owe it to them to leave it better than what we got it. And again, I think that I'm very blessed to live here. And I just want to continue to do what I can to make it as wonderful a place as it can be. And so that is what goes through my mind, especially sometimes when it's a struggle, right? When I enjoy my work, but it's work, and it's a lot of it, right? So that is something that is very active, and I try to keep focused on.
All right, Tunua, I'm asking you the same question. I already know the answer to that. I've watched you from the beginning, but go ahead, tell the people how you feel when you're doing this work and you're doing the work. You do so many things for the community, but, speak from your heart. How do you feel?
I was thinking about this. Someone had asked me the other day, and I've been on your show now several times
Yeah.
because I am constantly in the middle of and engaging with resources that I want to make sure the community gets. And it has, it's been an honor and a privilege during the pandemic in 2020 to be a leader who ran towards the crisis and said, what can I do? How can I use my skills and talents and gifts and passion for community to make sure as many people as possible have access to what they need to survive this pandemic? Someone said to me, Tunua, I've met with a lot of leaders over the last year, especially during this very, very difficult time. And I found that about 20% of the leaders really, moved in and leaned into the crisis and were actually activated by it and were able to really, see their leadership. And I'm proud to say that they considered me to be among those folks. And I do this because, I grew up with very humble beginnings. Greg, my story, 98th and Figueroa in South Central Los Angeles are my beginnings. And I say that because it's important that people know and understand that there are leaders out there who understand the struggle. I'm not far from it. Just because I happen to have a job today, I have family and friends who've been very negatively impacted by the COVID crisis. And so it's really important that we look at designing programs that meet people where they are at this moment. And it's not just an exercise in policy for me, it's personal. And it is something that I think that, leaders who are good and authentic are able to really look at and sort of build upon what are people needing right now and what are the resources that we can put together to make sure that they're not in that same need at the moment. So Jeff is right. He and I are on meetings every day, all day, before the sun comes up, well, after it goes down, trying to figure out how we can do more. And that drains a person. But what gives me that light all over again is when you read the stories and we're starting to collect them. We are hearing from households who are saying, but for this program, I don't know how I would have made it through or how I would have been able to get myself to a position of whole again. And it's those stories that keep me, motivated to keep going. We want to encourage your listeners too, that if they have such a story, the governor wants to hear it. Jeff wants to hear it too. I want to hear it. We want to know, how has this program helped you? Because it gives us what we need to share with the legislature about what's working. We want to hear what's not working, but we want to hear what's working and who got help. Because as more resources come along, we want to be able to continue to direct them in the right places.
Right. Yeah. Accountability is certainly something. And I'm glad to hear you say, these aren't just policymakers, guys. These people really are feeling it. They're really investing their life and their spirit into helping, the state come through these unprecedented times. And I'm really glad of that. I'm just really glad to have met Jeff today, and just always glad to meet, to know Tunua. I've been knowing her for a long time, and she's that one, right? Doing these things out here for our benefit in the community, been doing it a long time, and in a very effective manner. Let me ask you all something. Okay, so now we get through this, I go through it. I got my rental relief. Everything is good. Pandemic is over and everything, but doggone it, the rent is too doggone high. Do you guys see a relief for renters with the rents are just rising? It's almost unaffordable.
So that's when I get to pivot back to my normal day job. and as Tunua mentioned in my introduction, right, I was really fortunate and blessed to lead the Home Key initiative for the state. And that was about making more units immediately to help really vulnerable homeless and or folks really at risk of homelessness. And we were able to create 6,000 units in less than 6 months. And we've got to continue that effort because, unfortunately, in California for decades, from the 80s to today, we have not been building enough units. So part of the reason why rent and housing in general is so expensive is we just haven't kept up with the demand. Our job growth, our population growth have outpaced our ability to build units. Now, I know it was in the news the other week that California lost a congressional seat. We lost a congressional seat not because we lost population. We actually grew a few million people. We just grew a little more slowly than what we've grown historically, and we grew more slowly than other states. So because Congress has a fixed seat count of 435 seats, where that population shifts proportionally is what happens. We're still growing, and we're only building on average 20% of the housing units every year that we need to produce. So we have to increase housing units, and that is something that the governor and the legislature are looking at seriously. And we know we can't get out of this situation until we come up with more units that serve people of all income levels and really are in places of amenities that really meet people's needs. And so that is something that you're going to see a lot more conversation as we move out of the pandemic. You already see it in the news. You see the conversations of what was proposed in the government's budget proposal back in January. The May revise is getting ready to come out here in the next week or so. You see it as part of the infrastructure package that the Biden administration is talking about, and housing out of $2 trillion. Housing is $200 billion worth of conversation. Housing is infrastructure. Housing is healthcare. That's why housing has been so central in so many of these discussions about how we have to respond as a government and as a society. And so these are the things that we're hyper focused on. And as we do pivot out of the pandemic, our efforts are going to be laser focused on. And so we know we need to produce a lot of units. We can't do it at the same pace. We've got to pick up the pace. HomeKey showed that we can do it. We've got to apply those lessons across other programs and really work again with local governments and the federal government to unlock, the pipeline and really deliver more faster.
Someone's asking here, what does forthcoming rent relief support look like? I'm not sure I really understand that question, but maybe you guys do.
So maybe that's referring to the next round of funding that's coming. And, that's the exciting part. As I mentioned earlier, we have a live program. We have, 175,000 plus households that have already applied to the statewide program, tens of thousands of more to our partners. We're collecting all that information. We're going to be making sure, again, that the decision makers, the legislature, the governor, know what we're seeing. And when the new $2.2 billion coming through the American Rescue Plan is made available to the state of California, which will be in the next couple of weeks, then that gives them an opportunity to weigh in on what rent relief looks like going forward. So we know what it looks like today, and that's what we've been talking about. And we know we can serve folks, and we're super excited to be doing so. But it could look a little different, and so we want every chance we have to adjust the program to make sure that we continue to meet the need. Look, one thing we haven't had a chance to say is 82% of who we are serving in the program are our most vulnerable households in the state of California. They are 30% of area median income or below. So these are folks that are really struggling, and 82% of our assistance is going to those folks. So that empowers us. That gives us great confidence that we're starting to really help those that we know need it the most. But there's more we can do. And the legislature, the governor, they're not satisfied. Until we spend every dollar and we've helped stabilize every possible household, it's not going to be enough. And so they're going to continue to ask good questions of us, and they're going to make decisions based on the information that we have. And so I'm very excited in the next couple of weeks. The program might look a little different. It might not, but it might look a little different. And when it does, you're going to see Tunua and I out there and a whole bunch of other folks trying to make sure we get your attention and let you know what changes have occurred and how those changes are going to continue to support anyone that is vulnerable that needs help.
So when you say the next stage, so just like the COVID-19 relief grants, right, for businesses, so they come out in stages, you take the information in, you grant out to, the landlords, or in the other case, the different businesses. And so you're getting metrics and you're able to study that. And that's why you have the next stage of the next stage of funding come out. Is that why you do it in stages? Because you're just analyzing how it worked and what didn't?
Right. And I want to make sure that folks know, like, it's not about just pushing money out. This is about outcomes. We are laser focused on outcomes. And so we know what we need to be doing. We need to be hitting households disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Households that work in employment sectors that have either lost jobs, lost employment hours, which means loss of income, higher caseloads in certain communities than others. So we have those markers within the program. And talking about our families and households of color, we know that they make up roughly 50% of the state's population. But when we talk about disproportionate impact, we know that the impact that they've felt from COVID-19 is more like 70% of the need. So we are trying to make sure that we focus where the need actually is to assist those that have been most negatively impacted. And so those are the same things that we're looking at. But again, it's the outcome. So it's not only that the dollars are going there, but it's that folks are staying housed, that we've brought them current, that they can flip the page on 2020, right? We can all look back and be like, whoa, that was a crazy year, and hopefully not have to repeat it, right? So those are the things that we are really, really focused on. It's not necessarily the widgets. It's truly the outcomes.
I do want to, Greg, I do want to just make two notes of resource here as well for your listeners. So one, you asked about, and Jeff kind of talked about where the state's going in terms of production of housing. I sit on the board of directors of Housing California. I'm an ambassador for our Roadmap Home, which is a series of 57 plus policies on how we tackle what you call as the rent being too high right now. And so there is not only are policymakers thinking about this, but those who are practitioners and out there working in this space are also feeding ideas to the legislature. So that's happening. So that's one resource, is the Roadmap Home 2030. The other is I just want to remind your listeners, not only is this a rent relief program, but we're assisting with utilities. So if you have utilities that have not been paid, where you are way behind, then this program is an opportunity to be able to get those utilities paid from March of 2020, really April of 2020 through March 31st of 2021. If you've got those arrears, this program can pay up to 100%. And just like the rent, future rent can be paid with this program. Future utilities can be paid as well. So we would encourage those households who are, again, income eligible, impacted by COVID, look at the utility assistance as well in this application.
Yeah, interesting stuff there. Okay, so I'm listening to you all, and I'm really, really inspired and really grateful for the opportunity to share this information with the community. And I'm reminded of a conversation I was having just yesterday as we were chatting about an entirely different subject. However, it was tied to the state, in that the state would be opening, I guess, June 15th is the date that they're saying. And we were trying to, predict what would happen after after June 15th.
Different event, but yeah.
What in your world after June 15th and then they're open, then what? Are you still continuing, or, how are you even able to look past the date that they have said they're going to open?
So that is going to be an exciting day. I know a lot of communities, the viral loads are way down. In stuff like that. So I think we are starting to really turn the corner, right? Like, this is great. But no, we're not going to take our foot off the gas. We know there's still households that have had great negative impacts over this last year that still need help. And so we're not turning away from that. We're still laser focused until all $4.8 billion gets in the hands of people who need it. We're going to be unrelenting in terms of that focus. But likewise, we too are turning a page of making sure we start to address these other issues of how do we create more housing? How do we create more affordable housing? It doesn't look all the same. It's not going to be a one size fits all. So we've got to continue to make sure that we want to hear the success stories, but we also want to hear where it's not working, because that's how we make things better. And so we're not satisfied. We know there's more that needs to be done. That's why we are being entrusted with these funds to push these out. We want our counterparts in other states to be successful. But look, if they can't spend the money, give it to California, because we know we still got need. So we want to be in a position to also take more money if that's appropriate. We are not going to relent until we have gotten to a point where we have put this behind us.
All right, y'all. You hear it. You hear the commitment. Two of the best, most influential and effective people that I know on the case, giving us assistance, giving us information, giving us resources, all in this unprecedented time, COVID-19. We're starting to come out of it, y'all, and help is here. I said at the beginning, help is on the way, but as you saw, the announcement was help is here. And you can gain access to those resources. Just go in our chat and you can get the information. We'll be posting it again on Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. It'll be right there on the Facebook page too, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. And if you missed part of this live stream, you can get it. It's on demand, Coffee Conversations with Greg J, beachcityradio.com, YouTube, all of those. And then a little later on today, we're going to post it across our podcast platforms and wherever you get your favorite podcast, the audio only, in case you're driving around, rolling around, just put your earbuds in and download this episode of Coffee Conversations with Greg J. We're on iHeart, Apple, Google, just wherever you get it, just Google it. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I mean, this has been refreshing. I am really glad we did the special edition today. Jeff, any last words you want to say to the people?
I just say thank you. I hope that, if you heard us today, you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will try and do everything we can to meet you where you're at in terms of what your need is. And so I wish everyone, as we come out of this, Greg, as we look to pivot from June 15th forward, I hope everyone, the year only gets better, that our darker days are behind us. But if you still need help, please know that we are trying to make sure that we're available to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. Tunua, what about you there?
I feel like Jeff closed it out. We are here to help. Don't forget to visit housingiskey.com. There you'll find information about how to get rental relief assistance as well as utility assistance, get connected with a local organization in your community, and apply directly there. We say apply now. The resources are here, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you both so much for joining us. I tell you what, we got a great show on tomorrow. Omar Bradley, former mayor of the city of Compton. We're going to just listen to see what's going on over there. Things are volatile, I guess is a good word to describe it in the city. But, we hope that area, we can share some information that will certainly help everybody get at ease. It's a crazy time, like we say, unprecedented times. Omar Bradley on tomorrow. Next week, we're going to start off the week examining royalty in the Kingdom of the Zulus, live from Durban, South Africa. Whew, what a great day. But always remember, love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.